Hello people, you all know that I'm on social media full force, right? I'm also on TikTok. So when I was going through my TikTok account, I came across a TikToker who is in United Kingdom, and she was talking about racism in the workplace. Okay, interesting. And then I went through her videos. Oh my gosh, I got a lot. So we are going to talk about that now and see how other people are suffering through in the NHS or even the workplace, and let's see how she sees it. I was actually amazed to find out that there was also a research made, or a study of some sort that was made by the NHS, and I am on social media a lot. I have a lot of social media accounts. I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on X app, and I'm also on YouTube. And when I was going through my TikTok account, I came across a lady who was talking about NHS racism. She's working for NHS, and she was one of the nurses that were helping in orientating overseas nurse who joins the NHS. And in one of her videos, she mentioned that it was very hard for nurses who come from abroad to meld in with the NHS because of the racism remarks that were happening at that particular place where she was working. And I got interested, so I wanted to hear more. I went through all, if I say all, trust me, I went through all her videos on TikTok, and these are some of the videos that I picked so that you can hear what she says.
This is such a big thing to unpack because racism is apparent in all trusts across the NHS. The NHS is systemically racist. We know that there's an overrepresentation of people from an ethnic minority background. So all of your band 2s, 3s, 4s, your porters, your kitchen hostesses, your band 5 nurses, they have a high employee rate from an ethnic minority background. And it looks good because then you think, oh my God, the staff is so diverse. But then you look at the res data, so your workforce race data, and you see that, like in my trust, 100% of the band 9s are white, and I think it's 80% of the band 8s are white. And those are the people that are employing and deciding who moves up the ladder. We also know that staff members from an ethnic minority background are more likely to be reprimanded and experience bullying and harassment from their colleagues. So what can you do? So if you're the person being bullied, contact the RCN. They're really great for advocacy. They'll come to you to meetings. They can sit with you in HR meetings if you want to challenge. They can provide you with advice. Also, keep a log of all the bullying and harassment that you've experienced, with dates, times, what exactly has been said, and if you can, try and get witnesses too. So on a bigger scale, I work for my trust as an ethnic diversity network executive. So things that my team have done, amazing team, have set up anti-racism training, because it's not enough to be culturally aware. It needs to be anti-racism because we know there's racism in our trust. And that's not just my trust, that's trusts across the NHS. It should be mandatory, and it will be mandatory once we set it up. Other things we are doing include a sponsorship for our ethnic diversity staff members. So we picked 12 members who are then sponsored by an executive for 12 months, and that executive basically follows them through their career, helps them progress, helps them develop, teaches them leadership skills that they might need. But if this is something you're genuinely passionate about, fight for it. So like the last trust I worked, there was no ethnic diversity group. They just didn't have one. But so many of their staff were from an ethnic diversity background. And they were also hiring international nurses but had no safe space for them. And by safe space, I mean there was no one for them to talk to relate to the issues that they were experiencing, such as racism. So I ended up setting that up, and I set up an ethnic diversity network, as well as a boarding process for the international nurses. But it took months and months of work. So like, it is hard work to make changes, but it's something that you're passionate about, fight for it. Also, to my white colleagues, if you see racism, challenge it. It's not, oh, well, that's not my place to say, I don't really understand it. Like, we know what racism is, we know what bullying is, you're allowed to challenge it. Help them. Don't be the person that sits by and watches it happen, because you're just as complicit. I would love to hear your experiences of racism and how you have challenged it, and successful stories as well as unsuccessful. But I love hearing about all of your experiences, so please feel free to share. I've had so many comments in the last 2 weeks going, these international nurses scare me, they don't know what they're doing, everyone hates working with them. That sounds like a problem with the managers that are hiring them and saying that they are good enough to work in this country, and then they get here and they get no support, no teaching about how the NHS works or how nursing works in the UK, and the managers don't put any support in. It is a problem with the managers, not with these poor nurses that are being abused by the system. And these comments are all from nurses. I had one going, oh, there were 30 nurses that were hired and all of them failed their rescues, and now they're suing the trust. Good for them, because they didn't get the support. She also was like, oh, you know, and they accused the managers of making racist comments towards them, and no one believes them because they're sneaky. Why would they lie? I literally had a video on my profile going, I've had racist remarks from staff and patients and no one believed me. Why would we lie about it? So I have gone through this before previously in another video, very briefly, but for all the new followers, let's go through it again. So the Too Hot to Handle report is a report about racism within the NHS. Data was collected from a large number of tribunal cases and also a survey response from about 1,300 staff members. So one of the questions asked about assumptions, and 53% of those 1,300 people said that they had heard another individual make an assumption about their race. 38% of those 1,300 reported that they had heard someone make a race-based joke in the workplace. 23% said that they were unsupported when they reported the racism. 63% said that their behaviour was subjected to greater scrutiny compared to their white colleagues. This report also has personal stories in there, so it talks about a black nurse who was denied a promotion despite working for the trust for years and years, and a student that he was teaching have a promotion within 2 years of him qualifying. He had 3 degrees and a diploma, and he attended an NHS leadership course, but was told that he needs more than 30 years of experience for him to get the role that he wanted to apply for. 75% of staff said that if they raised a concern about racism within the NHS, they don't think they would be acted upon. There are lots of personal stories about nurses saying that it was a miscommunication, or they've misunderstood the situation when it was very clearly a racial comment. There were also colleagues saying that they were just old-fashioned rather than racist, and it shouldn't be seen in a racist way. Elliot Brown was a scientist at Manchester University who won £1 million from NHS in a tribunal when he complained about the racism he faced over the last 30 years and was then fired for it. His behaviour was seen as disruptive. Adelaine Koyama in 2023 was told that if she bleached her skin, she would get less racial abuse from the staff members and the patients. She then went towards a tribunal and won her case. The report talks about how there's a denial or refusal to accept that there is a racism issue within the NHS. It also talks about how trusts go through great lengths to try and downplay the actual harm that's caused to these people when they face racism. Many employers set a really high bar for having to prove that racism occurs, so then actually it's unachievable and there's no point in staff reporting it. Or that's how they want you to feel anyway. Like I said, it is a really interesting report. It's really sad and heartbreaking, but if you have time, I would recommend that you read it.
So you've heard what she says, and after I have seen her account, I went on to research more on NHS and racism at workplace. So I came across a document. It's a very huge document. They call it Too Hot to Handle. It's a 60 pages document whereby one of the NHS facility made a research using their own staff members who are not mentioned in the document on how they experienced a racism. And it's amazing to really find that such things are happening and we are not aware it's actually racism. I came to understand that even though we somehow associate racism with color, it sometimes is not. So that document has taught me a lot about racism, and I think because I read that document, I came across racism. All I can say is, if you are a person, you should know that the way you want to be treated is the way you should be treating people. After I read through this document, I taught myself that people need to change to accommodate a lot of things to avoid making racism remarks and or even doing it unconsciously. It made me realize that racism is everywhere. And if you are abroad and you wish to come and work in UK, embrace yourself. Make sure that you change the way you think about racism. And I would urge you to go through this document, read through it, give yourself time to read all of it, because I did that, and it's really, really, really amazing how people can be heartless and just oversee the hard work that others are doing because of skin color, and they just ignore that hard work. So learn to stand up for yourself and make sure that you don't come up with accusations, but only facts that you can back up if you are making complaints. And don't be afraid to speak up, because if you hold grudges or you keep it to yourself, it's going to haunt you. You might turn into a racist yourself. So that's all I can say about this. Well, racism is everywhere. I don't want to say it's too much in UK. I don't want to say it's too much in my country, which is Lesotho. I don't want to say it's too much in South Africa, but it's everywhere, and it's the intensity of it, it's the same. So how you perceive racism only depends on you. So change the way you think and you'll be able to work abroad. If you see that someone is being racist towards you, specifically at workplace, attend to it. Don't let it pass. Don't let it slide. Just go head on and report it, because it's unacceptable. It's going to affect the way you deliver your work, and it will affect the people you are caring for, and it will also affect the relationship of yourself and your colleagues. So report it immediately so that it gets dealt with. The United Kingdom government does not tolerate racism. Even the employers know about it. There is even whistleblowing policies. If you feel like you are afraid to report it directly, you can go through proper channels of whistleblowing, but it should be the facts. Don't ever do things just because you want to spoil something for someone. No, be factual and be able to narrate your story and have backup on it. Okay, so that's all I can say about this. So I will see you in my next video. Please continue to subscribe like and share the content with your loved ones if you think this kind of information is the one that you enjoy. So peace. I'll see you in my next video.